Tay stepped off the transport ship and took his first breath of station air. It smelled clean but strange, like nothing on Earth. The artificial gravity felt lighter than he was used to. His legs wobbled a bit as he walked. "Welcome to station. Proxima," said a cheerful voice from a small floating robot. "Please proceed to immigration." Tay gripped his bag tighter and joined the line of new arrivals. Most were not human. Some had blue skin. Others had 4 arms. One looked like a walking plant. Tay tried not to stare. The immigration officer, a human woman with tired eyes, scanned his documents. Tae Kim, first Korean student in the xenobiology program at Galactic University. Impressive. Tae nodded, too nervous to speak. His parents had been so proud when he got accepted. His father had cried. Now, standing in this massive space station millions of miles from Earth, Tae wondered if he had made a mistake. "Your roommate is already here," the officer said. "Follow the blue line to student housing." Tae followed the glowing blue path on the floor. The station was huge, the ceiling curved high above, painted to look like an Earth sky. Shops, food stands, and lounges lined the main walkway. People of all species moved about their day. Some wore the blue uniforms of station staff. Others wore the green of Galactic University students. At the student housing complex, Tae found his room. The door slid open to reveal a small but clean space with 2 beds, 2 desks, and a large window showing the stars. A young man looked up from a tablet. "You must be Tae," he said in Korean. "I'm June." Tae smiled, relief washing over him. "You're Korean too?" "Born in Busan," June said. "3rd year in the diplomacy program. I asked to room with you when I saw another Korean was coming." He stood and shook Tae's hand. "Not many of us out here." Tae set down his bag. "I didn't expect to hear Korean this far from home. The universal translators work well, but nothing beats your native language." June pointed to a small device on his collar. "You'll get yours at orientation tomorrow." "Is it hard?" Tae asked. "Being so far from Earth?" June nodded. "At first, the food is different, the day cycles are strange, but you'll adjust." He smiled. "And you have me to help." That night, Tae could not sleep. The bed felt wrong. The air smelled wrong. The soft hum of the station's systems was constant. He stared out the window at the unfamiliar stars until his eyes grew heavy. The next morning, June took Tae to the university center. Hundreds of students gathered in a large hall. Some sat on chairs, others floated. Some stood on the ceiling, their species more comfortable with an inverted perspective. "Welcome, new students." The dean, a tall woman with silver hair, stood on a platform. "You represent the best minds from 47 worlds and 112 species. Galactic University is the premier institution for cross-species education. Here, we learn from each other." Tae received his student ID, class schedule, and translator device. The small metal disc attached to his collar could translate any known language in the galaxy. "Your first class is with Dr. Han," June said, looking at Tae's schedule. "She's tough but brilliant. One of the few Korean professors here." After orientation, June showed Tae around the station. They visited the food court, where Tae was relieved to find a vendor selling kimchi and rice. They walked through the gardens, where plants from 100 worlds grew together in carefully controlled environments. They passed the engineering labs, where students built and tested new technologies. "What made you choose xenobiology?" June asked as they walked. "I want to understand how life works across the galaxy," Tae said. "On Earth, we studied only Earth life for thousands of years. Now we know it's just a tiny fraction of all life." June nodded. "Good reason. Better than mine for choosing diplomacy." "Which was?" "I'm good at arguing." They both laughed. The next day, Tae attended his first class. The xenobiology lab was a large room filled with strange equipment. Students of various species took their places at workstations. Dr. Han, a middle-aged Korean woman with short gray hair, stood at the front. "Welcome to advanced xenobiology," she said. "This is not an easy class. If you're looking for easy, the door is there." She pointed. No one left. Dr. Han assigned their first project, analyzing genetic samples from 10 different species to identify common patterns. Tay worked carefully, his hands steady despite his nerves. 2 hours later, Dr. Han walked by his station. She stopped and looked at his work. "You've identified a pattern in the neural development genes," she said. "Most first-year students miss that." Tay blinked in surprise. "The sequence repeats across all vertebrate-like species, even those from different planets." Dr. Han nodded. "Good eye, Mr. Kim. Continue." After class, a student with blue skin and forearms approached Tay. "Your work was impressive," she said, her words translated to Korean in his ear. "I'm Mira, 3rd year." "Thank you," Tay said. "This is all new to me." "Not for long, I think." Mira smiled. "You have a talent for seeing patterns." As weeks passed, Tay settled into his new life. The strange became familiar. He excelled in his classes, especially Dr. Han's. She often asked him to share his observations with the class. One day, while studying in the common area, he noticed a young woman struggling with an engineering problem on her tablet. Without thinking, he offered help. "The pattern is similar to neural networks in some insectoid species," he said. "Try approaching it that way." She looked up, surprised. "You're right," she said after trying his suggestion. "How did you know?" "I see patterns," Tay said simply. "I'm Sue," she said, extending her hand. "Engineering program." Tay, xenobiology. Sue had a warm smile and bright eyes. Her family had lived in space for 3 generations, she told him. They maintained environmental systems on stations throughout human space. "Earth must seem primitive to you," Tay said. Sue shook her head. "I've never been to Earth. It's a dream of mine to feel real gravity, to stand under an open sky." They began to study together regularly. Tay found himself looking forward to their sessions more than he wanted to admit. Meanwhile, news from beyond the station grew concerning. The Nix Collective, an advanced insectoid species, disputed human claims to a distant mining system. Political talks had stalled. Military ships moved near the borders. "Will it affect us here?" Tay asked June, who followed such matters closely. "This station is in neutral space," June said, "and it's an educational institution. Both sides respect that. Besides, these disputes happen all the time. They'll resolve it." But in the university, Hall's Tay noticed changes. The Nix students with their hard exoskeletons and compound eyes began to keep to themselves. They spoke in their clicking language even when others were present. Some human students reported feeling watched. Dr. Han seemed worried too, though she said nothing directly. She assigned new projects focusing on stress responses in various species. "Understanding how different beings react to threat can be valuable," was all she said. Tay worked late in the lab one night. He noticed something strange in the Nix samples. Elevated levels of certain hormones. Similar patterns appeared in Earth insects before swarming behavior. He made notes to discuss with Dr. Han. As he walked back to his room, the station felt different, quieter, tenser. Security officers patrolled more frequently. June was watching the news when Ty returned. "The talks have broken down," he said. "Both sides are recalling diplomats." "What does that mean?" Tay asked. "Probably nothing." But June didn't sound convinced. "This station has stood for 50 years, through 3 other conflicts. It's safe here." That night, Tay dreamed of home, of his mother's cooking, of the mountains near their house, of rain on the roof. He woke with tears on his face. He was just an exchange student, far from home, studying life among the stars. He had no way of knowing that in 2 days war would erupt during his xenobiology class, changing everything forever. 2 months passed quickly on Station Proxima. Tay no longer noticed the strange smell of the air. The artificial gravity felt normal now. He walked the curved hallways with confidence, no longer needing to check the map on his tablet. But new problems had appeared, small things at first. The lights in some sections would flicker. Messages arrived late or not at all. The food delivery system would send the wrong orders. Just normal station problems. June said when Tay mentioned it. Systems this big always have glitches. Tay wasn't so sure. In his xenobiology classes, he noticed the Nix students sitting together. They used to spread out among the other species. Now they formed a tight group. Their clicking language filled the room before Dr. Han arrived, then stopped all at once when she entered. One morning, Tay woke to a loud alarm. Red lights flashed in the hallway. His tablet showed a message. Security drill. Remain in quarters. Third one this month, June said, still in bed. They never did drills this often before. The drill lasted 2 hours. When it ended, Tay went to his class. Dr. Han looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. Today we study stress responses. In sentient species, she said. How different beings react to threat. The samples they worked with were fresh. Tay analyzed blood from humans, Mira's species, and the Nix. He noticed something strange in the Nix sample. Dr. Han, he called. Could you look at this? She came to his station and looked through his microscope. Her face grew serious. What? Do you see, Mr. Kim? The hormone levels are very high, Tay said. In Earth insects, these chemicals appear before aggressive group actions, like ants preparing to attack another nest. Dr. Han nodded slowly. Good observation, but be careful who you share it with. Some might misunderstand. After class, Tay met Sue for lunch. The food court was less crowded than usual. Many tables sat empty. Where is everyone? Tay asked. Haven't you heard? Many students are leaving the station. Going home. Sue pushed her food around her plate. My parents sent me 3 messages yesterday. They want me to come home too. Because of the Nix dispute? Sue nodded. My father works in station maintenance. He says something is happening. Systems are being accessed that shouldn't be. Small changes are being made. Tay thought about the glitches he had noticed. What kind of changes? Tiny adjustments to life support. Changes to security protocols. Nothing big enough to trigger alarms, but together. She didn't finish her sentence. That evening, Tay and Sue went to the security office. A board officer listened to their concerns. We get reports like this every day, he said. Especially since the news about the Nix dispute, people get scared. They see problems everywhere. But the system changes are real, Sue insisted. I can show you the logs. The officer sighed. I'll file a report. That's all I can do. As they left, Tay saw a group of Nix students watching them from across the main hall. Their compound eyes reflected the station lights. One made a gesture that Tay didn't understand. They don't seem happy to see us talking to security, Tay said quietly. I noticed, Sue replied. Let's go somewhere else. They went to the observation deck, a large room with huge windows facing the stars. Few people came here. The vastness of space made most feel small and afraid. I should leave the station, Sue said, looking out at the darkness. But I won't. My work is here. My life is here. Tay nodded. I could go home too. But it feels wrong to run away. Sue smiled at him. We're both stubborn. Over the next few days, more students left. Classes grew smaller. The Nix students remained, but they stopped speaking to anyone else. Even their teachers. June came back to the room late one night. His face was pale. What's wrong? Tay asked. I was at the diplomatic offices helping file reports, June said. I saw messages that weren't meant for students. The Nix have made threats. Big ones. What kind of threats? June sat on his bed. They say humans are developing biological weapons. They demand inspections of all research facilities. Tay thought of Dr. Han's lab, of the samples they studied. That's not true. We study biology, but not to make weapons. Truth doesn't matter sometimes, June said. Only what people believe. He looked at Ty. I'm staying too. Running won't help. But be careful in that lab. The next day, Tay noticed security officers outside the xenobiology lab. Dr. Han seemed more tense than usual. Today we will study defensive biological systems, she announced. How living things protect themselves. As they worked, Tay noticed the Nick students taking samples of their own, collecting items that weren't part of the assignment. One caught him watching and turned away quickly. After class, Tay stayed to clean his workspace. Dr. Han approached him. "You're a good student, Tay," she said. "One of the best I've had." "Thank you, Professor." "If things get difficult," she continued, "remember that biology has answers. All life wants to survive. All life has weaknesses, too." Before Tay could ask what she meant, the door opened. 3 Nick students entered. They stopped when they saw Tay and Dr. Han. "We forgot something," one said, the translator making the clicks into words. "The lab is closed now," Dr. Han replied. "Come back tomorrow." The Nicks left, but Tay felt their anger. It hung in the air like a smell. That night, the power went out in sections of the station. Emergency lights cast red shadows in the halls. Tay and June sat in darkness, their tablets providing the only light. "It's getting worse," June said. "The diplomatic offices are in chaos. No one's sleeping." Tay's tablet buzzed. A message from Saucer Engineering Bay now. Important. Tay and June hurried through the dim hallways. Security officers ran past them, not stopping to ask why students were out during an emergency. Sue waited at the engineering bay. Her hands shook as she showed them her screen. "These are the life support systems," she said. "Someone has been making changes for weeks, small ones, but today..." She pointed to a flashing alert. Someone tried to change the oxygen mix. If they had succeeded, everyone would have fallen asleep. Anyone with override codes could have taken control of the station. "Who would have those codes?" Tay asked. "Security, high-level administrators." Sue looked up. "And engineering students with top clearance, like me." The station shuddered suddenly. A distant boom echoed through the walls. "What was that?" June asked. Sue checked her tablet. "Something in the docking bay. Not an explosion. A ship arrived. A big one." Tay's tablet buzzed again. "An unknown sender." The message was short. "Human friend, do not attend class tomorrow." He showed it to the others. "It's from a Nix," June said. "Has to be." "Are they warning you?" Sue asked. "Or threatening you?" Tay didn't know. He thought of the Nix students in class, their strange behavior, the samples they took. "I have to go to class," he said. "I have to know what's happening." "That's crazy," June argued. "If they're planning something, then I need to be there," Tay insisted. Dr. Han might be in danger, other students too. As they argued, all their tablets buzzed at once. An emergency. Alert. All students returned to quarters immediately. Curfew in effect. They looked at each other. "I'll walk you back to engineering," Tay told Sue. "I'll go to the diplomatic offices," June said. "They might need help." As they prepared to separate, Tay felt a strange calm. Tomorrow would bring answers, one way or another. He was just an exchange student far from home, but something told him he would need to be much more than that very soon. Tay barely slept that night. The warning message kept appearing in his mind. "Human friend, do not attend class tomorrow." He wondered which Nix student had sent it. Was it Krell, the quiet one who sometimes nodded to him? Or Vex, who always watched him with those large compound eyes? Morning came too quickly. The station lights brightened to imitate sunrise. Tay got up and found June already dressed. "You're really going to class?" June asked. Tay nodded. "I have, too." "Then take this." June handed him a small device. "It's an emergency beacon. Press it if you need help. I'll be in the diplomatic wing." Tay put the device in his pocket. "Thank you." The hallways were strangely empty as Tay walked to class. Most students had either left the station or were staying in their rooms. Security officers stood at every intersection checking IDs. Tay's tablet buzzed. A message from Sue. "Be careful. Strange power fluctuations in your section." He reached the xenobiology lab and paused at the door. Through the small window, he could see students already inside. Dr. Han was setting up the day's lesson. Several Nix students stood in the back corner, clicking quietly to each other. Tay took a deep breath and entered. Dr. Han looked up. "Something," Like relief crossed her face when she saw him. "Mr. Kim, please take your seat." Tay sat at his usual station. Only half the class was present. Mira, the blue-skinned student with 4 arms, gave him a nervous smile from across the room. "Today we continue our study of defensive biological systems," Dr. Han said. She seemed calm, but Tay noticed she kept glancing at her tablet. "Please analyze the samples on your stations." Tay looked at his sample. It was human blood. Nothing unusual about it. He began the standard tests. 20 minutes passed in tense silence. Then Dr. Han's tablet buzzed loudly. She looked at it, and her face went pale. At that exact moment, a loud alarm blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights began flashing. The artificial gravity flickered, making Tay's stomach lurch. Dr. Han stood straight. "Attention, students," she said, her voice steady but strained. "I have just received an emergency notification. The Nix Collective has declared war on the Human Alliance. All non-human students must report to evacuation zones. All human students should..." She never finished her sentence. The Nix students moved with shocking speed. One leaped onto a table, knocking equipment to the floor. Another pulled something from beneath its carapace, a weapon Tay had never seen before. "The lies end now," the Nix shouted in its clicking language, translated by Tay's collar device. "No more human deception." Dr. Han stepped forward. "Put that down. This is a classroom," the Nix fired. A bright flash filled the room. Dr. Han fell backward, clutching her shoulder. Chaos erupted. Students screamed and ran for the door, but 2 Nix blocked it. Another flash and Mira collapsed to the floor. Tay ducked behind his station. His heart pounded so hard he could barely hear the alarms. The warning had been real. War had come to the classroom. The station shuddered violently. Somewhere distant, an explosion boomed. The lights went out completely. Then the emergency power came on, bathing everything in dim red. Tay peered around his station. Dr. Han lay on the floor, injured, but conscious. 4 Nix moved through the lab, checking each hiding student. When they found humans, they bound their hands with some kind of glowing restraint. The non-humans they pushed toward the door. Tay looked around for something, anything to help. His eyes fell on the sample cabinet. Inside were chemicals they used for tests. His mind raced. What had Dr. Han said? Biology has answers. All life wants to survive. All life has weaknesses too. The Nix had weaknesses. In xenobiology, they had studied Nix physiology. Their breathing was different from humans. They took in oxygen through spiracles, small holes in their exoskeletons. Tay reached slowly for the cabinet. Inside were dozens of labeled bottles. He needed something that would affect Nix breathing without harming humans. His fingers found a bottle of blue liquid, a compound they had used to study insect respiratory systems. In large amounts, it would make the Nix dizzy and weak. It wouldn't hurt humans. A shadow fell over him. Tay looked up to see a Nix standing. There, weapon pointed at his head. "Get up, human," it clicked. Tay stood slowly, the bottle hidden behind his back. "Move to the others," the Nix ordered. Instead of obeying, Tay twisted the cap off the bottle. In one quick motion, he flung the blue liquid at the Nix's face and chest. The Nix staggered back, making a high-pitched clicking sound. It dropped its weapon and clawed at its spiracles, trying to clear the liquid. Tay didn't hesitate. He grabbed the fallen weapon and called out to the other students, "Cover your mouths and noses!" He ran to the environmental control panel on the main wall and activated the room's ventilation system at maximum power. Then he opened 3 more bottles of the blue compound and placed them directly in front of the vents. Blue mist filled the room. The Nix attackers began to stagger and click in distress. Their movement slowed. One fell to its knees. Tay ran to Dr. Han. "Professor, can you stand?" She nodded, grimacing in pain. "What did you do?" "Respiratory inhibitor," Tay said. "It won't kill them, but they can't fight now." Dr. Han looked at him with new respect. "Help me up." Together they began freeing the captured human students. Mira was conscious again, holding one of her 4 arms at an odd angle. "We need to get out of here," Tay said. "The Nix might have backup. Coming. Where will we go? A frightened student asked. Tay thought of Sue. Engineering. I have a friend there. Dr. Han nodded. Good choice. Engineering has security doors. They gathered the injured. The Nix attackers lay on the floor, still, breathing but unable to move much. Tay took their weapons and distributed them to students who seemed least afraid. Stay together, he told the group. We move quickly and quietly. Tay pressed the emergency beacon June had given him. Then he led the group to the door. He peered into the hallway. It was empty but filled with smoke. Distant sounds of fighting echoed through the station. This way, Tay said, pointing toward engineering. Their group moved through the hallways of the dying station. Sparks fell from damaged ceiling panels. Doors opened and closed randomly as systems failed. Twice they had to hide from groups of armed Nix rushing past. Tay's tablet buzzed. A message from Sue. Where are you? Station under attack. Engineering bay secure. He sent back their location and that they were coming with injured people. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with 3 armed Nix soldiers. Before anyone could react, the wall beside the Nix exploded inward. Security officers in protective gear poured through the opening, quickly subduing the Nix. The lead officer approached Tay. Are you Tay Kim? We got your emergency signal. Tay nodded. We have injured. We need to get to engineering. That's where we're taking all civilians, the officer said. Follow us. As they continued through the damaged station, Tay couldn't believe how quickly everything had changed. Just yesterday, he had been a student worried about grades. Now he was leading a group of survivors through a war zone. They reached a security checkpoint near engineering. Guards scanned them for weapons and let them through the heavy doors. Inside, hundreds of people gathered in the large space. Medical staff treated the injured. Security officers maintained order. Tay looked for Sue. He found her coordinating a group of engineering students who were monitoring station systems. When she saw him, her face lit up. She ran to him and, without hesitation, hugged him tight. You're alive, she said. I was so worried when I heard the attack started in the science wing. We made it, Tay said. Dr. Han is injured but alive. What's happening to the station? Sue's face turned serious. It's bad. The Nix had people inside already. They disabled key systems before the attack. Their ships are docked at 3 points. They control half the station now. And June? Any word from the diplomatic wing? They're cut off, Sue said. No communication. But they have strong security there. They might be safe. Tay looked around at the scared faces in the engineering bay. This was just the beginning, he knew. The station was a battlefield now, and somehow he had become a soldier. The exchange student from Korea had never expected to fight in a war, but now that war had erupted during class, he had no choice but to become something more than a student. The survival of everyone in this room might depend on it. Hours passed in the engineering bay. Station security set up a command center in one corner. Medical staff treated the wounded in another. Everyone else sat in small groups, waiting and wondering what would happen next. Tai helped Dr. Han to a medical bed. Her shoulder wound was not life-threatening, but it caused her great pain. You did well in the classroom, she told him as a doctor examined her. Quick thinking. Good use of your knowledge. I just remembered what we learned about Nix biology, Tay said. Dr. Han smiled weakly. That's the human factor. You adapted. You used what you knew in a new way. The doctor finished bandaging Dr. Han's shoulder. Rest now, he said. No more talking. Tay left Dr. Han to rest and found Sue at her workstation. Screens showed the status of the station's systems. Most glowed red. How bad is it? Tay asked. Life. Support is stable in our section, Sue said. But we've lost control of many systems. The Nix have taken the main control room. What about communications? Can we call for help? Sue shook her head. The main communication array is damaged. We can send short-range messages within the station, but nothing to the outside. A security officer approached them. You two, the commander wants to see you. They followed the officer to the command center. A tall woman with short gray hair stood at a large table, looking at maps of the station. Her uniform showed the rank of Station Security Commander. "I'm Commander Park," she said. "I hear you two have been helpful. One used chemicals to disable Nix attackers. The other knows the station systems better than most of my officers." Tay and Sue nodded. "We need your help," Commander Park continued. "The situation is worse than most people here know. The Nix control 60% of the station. They've taken hostages in several sections, and they're looking for something specific in the science labs." "What are they looking for?" Tay asked. "We don't know exactly, but it has to do with biological research." Commander Park looked at him closely. "You're in Dr. Han's xenobiology class?" "Yes, we study how different species function. Basic biology, not weapons." The Nix seem to think otherwise. Their attack messages claim humans are developing biological weapons to use against them. Sue spoke up. "That's not true. This is a university, not a weapons lab." "Truth doesn't matter in war," Commander Park said. "Only what people believe." She pointed to a section of the map. "We need to reach the backup communications array in Section C. But the Nix control the hallways between here and there." Tay studied the map. "What about the maintenance tunnels? The ones used to service the environmental systems?" Commander Park looked surprised. "How do you know about those?" Sue showed me. "Her family works in station maintenance." Sue nodded. "The tunnels connect all sections. They're narrow, but we could travel through them." "The Nix might know about them too," Commander Park said. "Maybe not all of them," Sue replied. "Some tunnels are so small only maintenance robots use them. The Nix are bigger than humans. They might not fit." Commander Park considered this. "It's our best option, but who would go? My officers don't know the tunnel system." "I'll go," Sue said. "I know the tunnels." "So will I," Tay added. "I can help if we encounter Nix." Commander Park nodded. "Take 4 of my officers. If you reach the communications array, send a distress call to the Human Alliance fleet. They need to know we're under attack." 30 minutes later, Tay and Sue led a small team to a maintenance hatch near the floor. It opened to reveal a narrow tunnel just big enough for a person to crawl through. "These tunnels run between the walls," Sue explained. "They let maintenance workers access pipes and wiring without disturbing people in the main areas." One of the officers looked doubtful. "It's very small." "That's why the Nix won't use them," Tay said. "They're too big to fit comfortably." Sue went first, then Tay, then the 4 officers. They crawled through the dim tunnel, guided by the lights on their tablets. The air was hot and stale. Pipes ran along the sides, carrying water and other fluids. To different parts of the station, bundles of wires hung from the ceiling of the tunnel. "How far to Section C?" Tay whispered. "About half a kilometer," Sue replied. "There will be some tight turns and vertical shafts we need to climb." They moved slowly through the tunnel system. At intersections, Sue consulted a map on her tablet before choosing which way to go. Twice they had to climb up narrow shafts, using metal rungs built into the walls. "Stop," Sue said suddenly. She pointed to a grate in the side of the tunnel. Through it, they could see into a hallway. 2 Nix soldiers stood guard at a door. "That's a science lab," Tay whispered. "They're still searching them." They continued past, careful not to make noise. After another 10 minutes of crawling, they reached a larger junction where they could sit up. "We're halfway there," Sue said. "Let's rest for a minute." Tay's tablet buzzed. A message from June. "Alive. Diplomatic wing secure. Ambassadors negotiating. With Nix leaders, need more time." "June is alive," Tay told the others. "He says they're talking to the Nix." "Talk won't help if the Nix think we're making biological weapons," one officer said. Tay thought about this. "What if we could prove we're not? Show them the real research?" "How?" asked Sue. "The xenobiology database. It has records of all our research. It would show we're studying biology, not developing weapons." "But the database is in the science wing," Sue said. "The Nix control that area." "Not all of it," Tay said. "The backup servers are in the library section. If we can reach those, we can get the data." The lead officer frowned. Our mission is to reach the communications array. We can do both, Tay insisted. The library is on the way. If we can get proof that no weapons research was happening, it might help the negotiators. After some discussion, they agreed to make a quick stop at the library. They continued through the tunnels, moving as fast as they could while staying quiet. They reached an exit point near the library. Sue opened the hatch carefully and looked out. "Clear," she whispered. One by one, they climbed out into an empty hallway. The library doors were just ahead. Tay ran to them and tried his student ID. The doors remained locked. "Power's out in this section," Sue said. She went to a control panel on the wall and connected her tablet to it. After a minute of work, the doors slid open a few inches. "Best I can do." They squeezed through the gap into the dark library. The only light came from emergency strips along the floor. Rows of data terminals stood silent. "The backup servers are in the back room," Tay said. "I've used them for research." They made their way through the library. At the back, a heavy door led to the server room. Again, Sue used her tablet to override the lock. Inside, the servers hummed quietly, running. On backup power, Tay went to a terminal and logged in with his student ID. He searched for the xenobiology research database and began copying files to his tablet. "Hurry," the lead officer urged. "We need to keep moving." "Almost done," Tay said. The file transfer was at 90%. Suddenly they heard noises from the library, the sound of things being knocked over, followed by the distinctive clicking of Nick's communication. "They're here," Sue whispered. The officers drew their weapons. The file transfer reached 100%. Tay disconnected his tablet. "Is there another way out?" one officer asked. Sue pointed to a maintenance hatch in the floor. "That leads to a lower tunnel. It will take us right to Section C." They opened the hatch as quietly as possible. The sounds of Nick searching the library grew louder. One by one, they descended into the tunnel. Tay went last. Just as he was closing the hatch, he saw the server room door begin to open. He pulled the hatch shut and secured it from below. This tunnel was even narrower than the previous ones. They had to crawl on their stomachs in some places, but Sue led them surely through the maze. After what seemed like hours, they reached another hatch. "This opens into Section C near the communications array," Sue said. They emerged into a hallway with flickering lights. Signs of battle were everywhere. Scorch. Marks on walls, broken equipment, a few bodies covered with sheets. "The array is this way," the lead officer said, pointing down the hall. They ran to a door marked Emergency Communications. Inside, a small room held several control panels and a large dish-shaped device. "This is a direct link to Alliance emergency channels," the officer explained. He activated the system, which glowed to life. "Now we can call for help." As the officer prepared the distress call, Tay connected his tablet to another terminal. He uploaded the xenobiology research files. "Include this in the transmission," he told the officer. "It proves we weren't developing weapons. If the Alliance ships bring it when they come, it might help end this war faster." The officer nodded and added the files to the transmission. He pressed a button and a light began pulsing on the control panel. "Message sent. Now we wait and hope someone is listening." Tay looked at Sue. In the dim emergency lighting, her face showed exhaustion, but also determination. He reached for her hand. She took it and squeezed it tight. The human exchange student had never imagined being part of a war. But now he understood what Dr. Hahn had meant by the human factor. Humans could adapt. They could use knowledge in new ways. They could find paths that others missed. These were strengths that no weapon could match. And as they waited for a response to their call for help, Tay knew these human traits might be what saved them all. 2 days passed since they sent the distress call. Tay, Sue, and the security team made it back to the engineering base safely. More refugees had arrived, fleeing from sections taken by the Knicks. Food was running low, medical supplies too. Everyone was tired and afraid. Tay helped where he could. He used his knowledge of biology to assist the medical staff. He showed them how different species reacted to medicines. This saved lives when supplies ran short. Sue worked with other engineers to keep life support running. They managed to reroute power from less important systems. The lights were dim, but the air stayed clean. The water kept flowing. Commander. Park called Ty and Sue to the command center. A map on the wall showed the current situation. Red areas marked Nix control. Blue showed human-held sections. There was more red than blue now. "We received a response to our distress call," Commander Park said. "Alliance ships are coming, but they won't arrive for at least 10 more hours." "Can we hold out that long?" Sue asked. "Maybe." Commander Park pointed to a section of the map. "The Nix are gathering forces here near the central hub. They might be planning a final push to take the entire station." Tay studied the map. "What about the diplomatic wing? Is June still safe?" "For now. The Nix haven't attacked there yet. Ambassadors from neutral species are still trying to negotiate." "Any progress?" Tay asked. Commander Park shook her head. "The Nix leaders demand we hand over all biological research. They're convinced we're developing weapons against them." Tay thought about the research files they had sent with the distress call. "Those files prove we're not making weapons, but the Nix leaders haven't seen them yet. Can we send the files to the diplomatic wing?" Sue suggested. "Let June show them to the negotiators?" "We've tried," Commander Park said. "The Nix are blocking all communications to that section." Tay had an idea. "What about the maintenance tunnels? We could take a data device physically to the diplomatic wing." Commander Park considered this. "It's dangerous. The Nix know about some of the tunnels now. They've set up checkpoints. But not all tunnels," Sue said. "There are paths they don't know about, smaller ones." After much discussion, they made a plan. Tay and Sue would take the research files to the diplomatic wing. 2 security officers would go with them. They would use the smallest maintenance tunnels, ones too narrow for the larger Nix to follow if discovered. They prepared quickly. Tay downloaded the research files to a small device. Sue studied the tunnel maps to find the best route. The security officers gathered supplies and weapons. Before they left, Dr. Hahn approached Tay. Her arm was in a sling, but she looked stronger. "I heard about your mission," she said. "It's our best chance to end this peacefully." "I'm just trying to help," Tay said. Dr. Hahn smiled. "You've come a long way from that nervous exchange student who arrived a few months ago." Tay thought about how much had changed. "I never expected to be in the middle of a war." "No one did. But you've shown the best of humanity in this crisis. Your ability to adapt, to use knowledge in new ways. That's what makes humans special in the galaxy." Dr. Hahn handed him a small container. "Take this. It's a stronger version of the compound you used in the classroom. Only use it if you have no other choice." Tay took the container and put it in his pocket. "Thank you, Professor." Their small group left through a maintenance hatch in a quiet corner of the engineering bay. The tunnels were even more uncomfortable now. Emergency lighting was failing. In many sections, they had to use the lights on their tablets to see. Sue led the way, checking her map frequently. They crawled through narrow passages, climbed up and down vertical shafts, and squeezed through gaps barely big enough for a human. "We're halfway there," Sue whispered after 2 hours of difficult travel. Just then, they heard noises ahead. The HFY, clicking language of the Nix echoed through the metal walls. "They're in the tunnel system," one officer whispered. "Not this tunnel," Sue said. "A larger one that runs parallel to us. They can't fit in here." They moved more slowly now, making no sound. Through small grates and gaps, they could see Nix soldiers in the larger tunnels. The insectoid beings moved awkwardly in the confined space, their hard exoskeletons scraping against the walls. At one junction, they had to cross a section of the larger tunnel. They waited until no Nix were visible, then rushed across one by one. Tay went last. Just as he reached the other side, a Nix patrol turned the corner. "Human!" The Nix soldier clicked, raising its weapon. One of the security officers fired first. The shot hit the Nix in the arm. More clicking, calling for backup. "Run!" the officer shouted. "We'll hold them off." Tay wanted to stay and help, but the mission was too important. He and Sue continued through the small tunnel as sounds of fighting faded behind them. We're close to the diplomatic wing, Sue said, her voice tight with emotion. Just a little further. They reached a vertical shaft that led upward. Sue checked her map. This opens into a storage room near the main diplomatic chamber. But I don't know what's waiting up there. Tay took the container Dr. Han had given him. Let me go first. He climbed the ladder up to the hatch. Carefully, he pushed it open a few inches and peered out. The storage room was empty. He climbed out and helped Sue up. The main chamber should be through that door, Sue said, pointing. They approached the door cautiously. Voices came from the other side, human voices and the translated clicks of Nix. Negotiations were still happening. Tay opened the door slightly. The room beyond was large. Around a circular table sat representatives from many species. Humans on one side, Nix on the other. Neutral ambassadors sat between them. Among the humans, Tay spotted June, taking notes for an older diplomat. A Nix leader was speaking, its voice harsh even through translation. For the final time, we demand access to all biological research facilities. Our intelligence confirms weapons development targeting our species. Tay stepped into the room. All eyes turned to him. That intelligence is wrong, he said, holding up the data device. I have proof. The human diplomats looked shocked. The Nix leaders clicked angrily. 2 Nix guards moved toward Tay, but their leader held up a hand to stop them. Who is this human? The Nix leader demanded. Tay Kim. Tay said, xenobiology student. I was there when your soldiers attacked our classroom. June stood up. I know him. He speaks the truth. A neutral ambassador, a tall being with silvery skin, spoke. Let us hear what the student has to say. Tay connected the data device to a display terminal. The screen showed files from Dr. Han's xenobiology lab. This is all our research. Every experiment, every study. We're learning about biology, not making weapons. He displayed images of the lab, videos of classes, research, notes. See for yourself. We study how different species live, how they function, how they can coexist. The Nix leaders clicked among themselves. One stepped forward to examine the files more closely. These do not show weapons research, it admitted finally. Then why did you attack us? Demanded a human diplomat. The third Nix leader, smaller than the others, clicked rapidly. The translation came. We received proof of human biological weapons from a trusted source. What source? Asked the neutral ambassador. Before the Nix could answer, the room's main door burst open. A new group entered, neither human nor Nix, but a species Ty had seen before. Gray skin, 4 eyes, thin bodies. The Vrel, a species known for their advanced technology and secretive ways. The leader of the Vrel spoke. The war proceeds as planned, both sides weakening each other. The room fell silent. The Vrel hadn't seen Tay and Sue in the corner. They didn't know they were being overheard. One of the Nix leaders clicked in confusion. What is this? You said humans were creating weapons against us. And we told the humans you were planning to attack, the Vrel said. Both sides so eager to believe the worst about each other. Understanding dawned on every face in the room. The Vrel had tricked both sides into war, a third species playing humans and Nix against each other. Before anyone could react, Alliance ships arrived. The station shook as docking procedures began. Security teams flooded in. The Vrel were captured. Fighting across the station stopped as the truth spread. In the days that followed, humans and Nix worked together to repair the station. The research files Tay had brought helped convince the Nix leaders that no weapons had been developed. The Vrel confessed to creating false evidence to start a war between humans and Nix. They had wanted both species to weaken each other so the Vrel could take control of valuable resources. Galactic University reopened a month later. Many students had left, but many stayed. New safety measures were put in place. Relations between humans and Nix improved as they worked to understand each other better. Tay returned to his xenobiology studies with new purpose. Dr. Han made him her research assistant. June received offers from diplomatic services impressed by his work during the crisis. Sue led a team redesigning station security systems. On a quiet evening, the three friends met at the observation deck. The stars looked the same as before, but everything else had changed. "I came here to study life in the galaxy," Tay said. "I didn't expect to help save it." "You were just an exchange student," June said with a smile. "Until war erupted during class," Sue finished, taking Tay's hand. They stood together, looking out at the stars. Tay had learned the most important